3 for 3 here, guys, and we got the baseball podcast of the week. This is Coach Frank. I teach with me in the Podfather, and we got some power rankings coming your way, guys. So let's get into it. Let's get right into it because I love this bit. We're going to go into the power rankings of what I believe is going to be like a weekly thing we're going to do. The power rankings, and the power rankings are the top 3 of what I think's in the major leagues at this time. So with that idea, I got the Rays at 1. I have the Atlanta Braves at 2. And I got the surprising Baltimore Orioles at 3. Teach, I get it wrong or right? What you think?
Wrong.
Wrong? Podfather, what you think? I mean, yeah.
I think it's as right as it needs to be if it's the power rankings instead of the power frankings.
Power
It's
rankings.
Power rankings. I guess we're 2 for 3. Guys, let us know what you think the top 3 are this week, and we'll go from there. But first, to get into it, let me explain a little bit. You guys honestly, Teach, you can honestly look me in the face and say there's a better team than the Rays right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the team that I have in there is the Rangers.
No.
Yes, and listen, baseball season wrapped up for me early in May. Summer school just wrapped up. I've been able to watch a lot more baseball now the last month and a half. The Rangers have the largest run differential in baseball. And Podfather might not know what that is. That's basically it's points for, points against, right? Like just like in football, point differential. So they have the largest run differential, 157 runs. Now, Coach, you know better, okay? You know scoring runs matters and preventing runs matters. Now, this is a team with 3, I would call them solid pitchers. They have these 3 almost number 2 guys, right? Jonathan Gray, who was a high draft pick, fizzled out in Colorado. Then you have Martin Perez, who's been there for a while, pretty good, and Nathan Eovaldi. Nathan Eovaldi, bane of my existence as a Yankees fan, looked great in a Red Sox uniform. Hated him when he was there. But they also have guys who are just hitting the cover off the ball with Marcus Semien, and then rookie Josh Young, and Coach Frank will remember this guy, Adolis Garcia, former Cardinal. Shocking, shocking, shocking. All Cardinals do is leave someplace and then do way better than they did as a Cardinal and break Coach Frank's heart. So I don't understand how the Rangers aren't the 3rd best team in your power rankings. Now, I understand Atlanta Braves. I love the Braves. I love the staff of the Braves. I love the rotation. I understand Tampa Bay because until it looks like fool's gold, we're just going to call it gold. But the Orioles, I don't get it.
Well, let me combat you with that, Teach, real fast, and before we get to Podfather. And the run differential is very important. And for the Podfather, that is like a team plus minus for you over there, because I know you've been using that plus minus, killed us to death with it during the playoffs. But when we get you with that too, there's a little point where I like that when you're the Rays or the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Blue Jays, I always look at your differential a little different because you do always. I cannot think of a year where you didn't play in the toughest division in baseball. It doesn't exist. It's been that way for about 30 years in a row. So when the run differential is a little different, I don't mind it so much. And that's kind of why I left them off my top 3, because the Rangers division is always trash. It just is what it is. I don't care who plays in it. I don't care what happens. I don't care the person. Speaking of, I believe they just traded for Chapman about an hour ago, time stamping this thing, which will give him another freaking stunning arm out of the bullpen.
Maybe.
But maybe. Who knows what's happening.
Can I just say one thing? One thing about that comment? Yes, their division is trash. But unlike football and unlike basketball, where a majority of your games are the division, baseball, you play everybody. So they're not just playing their division games.
You do, but you play more division games than the other one. So, I mean, it's just, I will always give them an advantage for playing some of the weaker teams more often. But that's okay. It's not like, I'm not going to say they weren't like number 4. And honestly, it's really debatable. So we'll get to the Podfather, because I know he's dying to talk about the only team he's ever cared about, which he really hasn't cared that much about, but he's actually cared about in baseball. And it's not the St. Louis Cardinals, because he's been my best friend for about 30 years, but it's the Baltimore Orioles, who have the best record at this time of year, maybe in my entire life, my every single waking year existence. I can't remember the Orioles being as good as they are at this moment in the season. Not one single time. And Rushman he's the truth. He's the answer. He's the difference maker. But the funny part is they got a lot coming. Oh God, they're loaded. It's them and the Dodgers. They have so many players coming up the pipeline. And I'm not talking about these guys that are flashing. I'm talking about real players. Sons of one of my guys. They got Holiday coming like a rocket. So Podfather, let me hear about give you all some love, brother.
I first of all, I don't want to talk about Baltimore right now, okay? Because I told you earlier. No. Hold on. You got long-winded. You and Teach both have had all this discussion, and I told you earlier you don't have to change anything if we're not calling it the Power Frankings. If we are calling it the Power Frankings, let me tell you what you got wrong with your Power Frankings. Can I do that?
Yeah.
So first of all, I think Tampa Bay at number 1 is wrong. I think they're 5-5 in their last 10, and they were outpaced by the Atlanta Braves all of June. So Atlanta Braves took 16 wins in June, which is most of the major leagues, and they're outpacing them over the last 6 weeks at 21-16. I think overall right now, Atlanta's looking like probably the better team. Now, the second half of the season isn't on us yet. We'll see how it ends up. But if I had to do it today, I would put Atlanta at number 1. I would put Tampa Bay at number 2. And then I have to agree with Teach. I'd have to go the Rangers at 3. I think that makes sense. I think Baltimore's anywhere between that 5 and 8 range right now. And I love the Orioles. I don't love them enough to watch them, but I love them because my dad was from Baltimore, right? So that's where I'm at. But that's what I feel about the Power Frankings. I think they did a great job. But if it was the Podfather Frankings, that's the way it would fall.
I don't disagree there, but I am shocked that you don't want to even give your Orioles a minute of love. And that's okay because you broke down the other part of that, and I appreciate you bringing some knowledge to the dome. So with that idea, those are the top 3. Let us know what we got, what I got right, what I got wrong. Give me your opinions. Show me some love. If it was the bottom 3 rankings, I'd have the Cardinals there, but we're not talking about them right now. So,
how about the Redbirds?
Oh man, they're special.
There's a lot of surprising things this season. I mean, the Cardinals' struggle is a surprise, but there are some teams like the Orioles who have definitely shocked everybody. And another team that's shocking people, Los Angeles Angels, not just the Dodgers. They're actually playing baseball in LA for the Halos, which is surprising.
I mean, they're a little above 500. I mean, they're not blowing nobody away.
That's huge for them. When's the last time they were above 500 this late in the season?
I can't give them anything when I say they probably have the 1 and 2 best players in the major leagues. I can't give them any credit unless they have a top 5 record in the major leagues. They don't deserve any credit. I've always questioned. You know what the funny part is? The Angels were a phenomenal team. I forget the coach. They got rid of him, but he was a great. I forget. Do you know who the coach was before they got all the superstars?
Mike Scioscia.
Mike Scioscia. This is back when the days when they had David Eckstein and Jim Edmonds, and they had these gritty role players that just did their job. They played fundamental old school baseball. It were a joy to watch all the way in LA from where I was at in St. Louis or then at Virginia, where I was living in Virginia. And so like I always trusted the Angels, believed in the Angels, and for some reason they just said, you know what, we got to start spending like the Yankees, and they tried to play. This is what I love about Oakland. So Billy Beane said it in Moneyball: if we're going to play like the Yankees, we're going to lose out in the field. They tried to play like the Yankees, and they lost in the field, and they've lost ever since then. And guess what? They got some guys. They got some of the best players to ever play there, and they don't win at all. They don't win nothing. I mean, nothing. The biggest tragedy in life is Mike Trout. I don't think he's won a single playoff game. Not a series, a game. And right now, that's on Shohei Ohtani's head too. Not a series. They haven't won a game. Not a single game. The A's, with $80 million less in payroll on average every year, have won rounds. And the Rays, the opposite end of the spectrum, the number 1 in my rankings, win consistently in the playoffs. And the Angels couldn't get you, again, not one series. They haven't won a game since Mike Trout joined them. A game. I can't forgive him for that. Yes, it is surprising that they're above 500. But that's what it is. It's surprising. It's surprising. Podfather, you got anything on that?
Nothing. Yeah, nothing.
But so I love the segue and the lead in. Let's stay on the Angels because I got a question for you guys. So, in talking about Shohei Ohtani, I had me thinking, what is the Shohei in other sports? Podfather, I'm going to come with you first. In football, who is the Shohei of football?
Shohei of football, well, you just talked about him not winning playoff games. So I was going to say Patrick Mahomes, but you destroyed that before we even got here. So I think I have to go Aaron Rodgers. I think I have to go somebody who's uber talented, super talented, can do a little bit of everything on the field, but he could never, ever. He had the one great year, and then he just couldn't win the playoffs.
Interesting. Teach basketball. Let me know.
So two names came to mind, Giannis or Kawhi Leonard. Giannis, I just thought of who can be Defensive Player of the Year and also MVP in the same season. There was a miraculous LeBron season where he won practically everything and finished second Defensive Player of the Year. So that's what I went with.
I think those are both great answers. Hey, out there, let us know. Is there somebody you think? Who's the Shohei of whatever sport you like? I want to know this. Let us know. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what's going on. But with that knowledge, Podfather, I had some. Me and Teach talked about it a little bit. We had a little bit conversation because we're thinking, how can you play one position and be Shohei Ohtani? That is the key factor. So we were going down like defense, offense, and I was like, maybe we're making it too broad. Maybe if they just play two positions that are kind of different in a lot of answers. So we were thinking either quarterback, running back, wide receivers, running back. So we were trying to come up with different ways. We couldn't come up with anybody that was great in any way. Taysom Hill was a guy that came up, but he's like just mediocre at everything. Don't love it.
So there's been a few guys that played two positions that were absolutely amazing, right? You had prime time.
Yeah, we had prime time on the list.
Right?
Yeah, but was he amazing on offense?
Yeah, I think he did what he was supposed to do. He brought coverage over to had to play
not amazing.
Did what he's supposed to do, but being like the Calvin Johnson or the Jefferson of wide receivers, he was not. He was just a good wide receiver.
And then you had Tim Tebow, who went and played tight end. Amazing tight end, by the way.
Made it through
the first 3 weeks of training camp at Jacksonville. Okay,
stunning.
You'd have done better if you said, "Hey, he made Double-A baseball for the Mets."
Yeah, actually, that's not really a bad.
He won a playoff game for Denver and then Double-A for the Mets. So
we should almost put Jordan in that conversation if we're going to talk like this. I mean, you might as well. He's the second greatest player in basketball, and he was a top 1,500 player in baseball. So we could maybe put him in the list. Then I will say we had some other names because if we're going like this, though, we had some other names in football because football is where it got really interesting for us. We had some names like Marshall Falk, who was a very good pass catcher and running back, but it was all in the running back position. And then my son Lane said, "What about Deebo Samuel?" And I was like, you know what? Because in my mind, if he ran the ball the whole time, he'd be a top 5 running back.
It's not in my mind, sides of the ball.
I know, but it's two different, drastic different.
Two different positions.
We don't have anything that's two sides. Troy Brown was a guy who came to my name, but you can't compare those guys to Shohei Ohtani. I mean, literally talking about he's a top 5 Cy Young candidate and MVP candidate. That is, you don't have a defensive player of the year in football and a guy who's offensive player of the year. It doesn't exist.
But J.J. Watt was another name where I said, wait a second.
J.J.
He
Watt
led the league in sacks, and also I think he caught 4 touchdown passes that year. That was the year he finished second in MVP, I think.
Goal line specialist.
I mean, we were going like Refrigerator Perry and names like we were trying to come up with anyone. We couldn't come up with Leon Lett might have made the thing for some of his fullback blocking that he was trying to do for the Cowboys back in the day. I mean, we couldn't come up with anything that was comparable for football. I think basketball is a little more versatile. It's easier to be both ways and both like that. But I think those are great questions. Great little segment. It just piqued my mind. I'm interested in what the people are going to say.
College football, I mean, you could almost go Charles Woodson. That year he won the Heisman.
College football, with
the year he beat. Yeah, he beat out Peyton Manning because he played defense, special teams, and then on offense they had a series of packages for him. So,
also if you want to think about it in a different retrospect, a different way, Russell Wilson was a very highly touted baseball prospect and a Super Bowl MVP. So it's not like Kyler Murray was too. Kyler Murray's got a can. But listen, low key, nobody wants to talk about Tracy McGrady. Still can throw in the 80s at 50 years old. That's like he was pretty good in baseball too. He wasn't no bum.
Bo Jackson actually did it. Deion Sanders actually did it. Like played major league and was very successful in both sports. Let's not talk
successful. I don't know. What's you got to define successful because he was just good. He was good on the Reds. He wasn't successful.
He didn't have individual success in baseball. He did have team success.
Yeah, Bo Jackson was more accurate in my mind than Deion was. If I'm going to compare, if I'm putting them two up there, but if I'm looking at a whole bunch of different players, Russell Wilson was up there. Kyler Murray was up there. Hey, Allen Iverson was to this day. Michael Vick said the greatest football player he ever said was Allen Iverson. Allen just chose basketball, but you never know what could have happened. But I think that's a great thing. I'm interested what the fans are going to say. I'm interested in some comments, some things we can get down. I think it's going to be really fun. But on the topic of football, there's no doubt basketball and football are leaving baseball behind. It's becoming more and more evident every day. In small towns in America, I do believe that baseball is still prevalent. I believe that it's a backbone of a lot of the small town society. But in the major towns where a lot of these kids and athletes are, it's not. It's not their second favorite sport. It's not even the sport they use to stay in shape anymore. A lot of kids are starting to go to soccer to stay in shape over baseball because it's more running and it's more ways to stay in shape per what they want to do. It's just a lot of running. And so my mind, I'm racking myself. So you guys, I want to pose the question. First, is there anything baseball can do to compete with the other sports? Teach.
Well, I don't accept the premise of the question. And let me just start there. Surprising, right? I don't accept the premise of a question because I do want to be factual with a couple things, okay? Baseball used to be the national pastime. It's not anymore, okay? Baseball is regional. People who are Yankees fans in New York love the Yankees. People who are Cincinnati Reds fans in Cincinnati love the Reds. People who are Braves fan love the Braves. Baseball, I mean, they don't really have the version of the Dallas Cowboys. You can argue the Yankees are probably that because so many people go from New York to live in Florida, right? But you don't have this widespread appeal for everyone. Baseball is regional now. It will be regional now. It's not going to be a national sport like basketball, like football is. It's not going to happen. Now, that being said, there are some things that they can do, okay? The first thing I think they can do, get rid of the wild card, the second wild card. Get rid of it. They added it, and they went ahead and said, you know what, this is going to make it competitive. Teams, everybody's in it. There's not going to be teams selling off parts. Guess what, idiots? Selling off parts works. Teams rebuilding works. And anytime there's player movement, you get viewers. There's a reason that the NBA offseason is the best offseason. There's a reason why everybody watches the NFL trade deadline and the NFL offseason. It's because of movement. Get rid of the second wild card. Let the trade deadline go crazy. Everybody will go ahead and try and sell off their parts first so they can get the most prospects back for it. Don't overthink this, okay? There's competition and then there's viewership. To me, I'd rather increase competition by saying only 4 teams make it, guys. That's it. Let's get rid of this stupid thing and increase viewership because all eyes will be on the trade deadline.
Not a bad suggestion. I will admit, when you were saying it, I was thinking I actually care about baseball the least. And there was a time about like 8 years ago when me and you would talk about baseball in the offseason. The winter meetings in December was always we were relentless in conversations, just as much as we are in basketball. Leading that week up to it, it was like, oh my gosh, did you hear what they said? Or this person's done this, or they're meeting with that guy, or they're meeting with this guy. And then you just marveled in the stuff that was happening because there were big moves all the time. And it seems to completely slow everything down. And it's hard to watch sometimes. Podfather, you got anything?
Nothing. I think baseball has done all they can. I think speeding up the game is important. They did that. It's still too long. It's still too slow. I think in America and the fast paced life that we live now, it's a drive through society. It's a want it now Google society. Baseball doesn't work. It doesn't fit. It's not fast enough. It doesn't go enough. And so, yeah,
Let me combat you about that because I have a couple problems with that statement. One problem is football games are on average and have been on average longer than baseball games. Basketball games in the last 2 minutes is the worst thing to watch in sports. There's 75,219 timeouts between every freaking play, and it makes me so upset every time I watch a game because I just want to see them play the stupid game. But we call it every single time, and I can't stand it. So I will say baseball does seem long. I have been recently to a minor league game and watched it live, and by the time I finished my hot dog, it was almost the fourth inning, and I was shocked. Almost to a point where I was like, I wish it was longer. And that was crazy, but I will give it to them. It was a low-scoring event. It was 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3 until later in the game. Then they got some hits. But in the first 3 innings, it was very, 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 very fast to shocking points. I think you're not completely wrong. It still feels slow is what I think I would give you. I don't know if it is slower. It feels slower in a lot of retrospects.
if you
Go ahead. But some of the things, this is the problem because you're not a complete baseball fan. You are not a baseball fan. And so this is what I think for a guy who watches baseball, the slowness of the games of when it's 1-2-3 is what I appreciate. I love pitchers having a pitching duel. That's because I understand it. And there's the difference. You don't.
Who doesn't understand 3 strikes you're out? Throw the ball. They throw fastballs, curveballs, knuckleballs. Who cares? Listen, no. First of all, there's more steps in action in 5 minutes of basketball than the entirety of a baseball game. 99% of the time, if you counted steps from one person, there's more steps taken in a basketball game in a 5-minute pace than there is an entire thing of a game of baseball. Football's not even close. The action, you're like, oh, well, the game's way longer at the end, 2 minutes, blah, 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 blah. Football's longer. Yeah, it's also much easier to enjoy, much easier to watch because there's so much action. And so, listen, whatever. I'm not a baseball fan.
Wait a second.
Sure.
Wait a second. Let me jump in. Let me jump in right here.
You're gonna say teach what's on my mind. I know you are. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm going to. There's more steps in a marathon. I'm not going to watch that. Okay? There are more steps in a marathon. I'm not glued to the TV going, yeah, I love that dude from Uganda. All right? I'm not saying that. Okay? For a baseball game is hurry up and wait. I think it's more akin to golf than it is the other sports. It's, hey, action right here, and then it's slow pace till the next big thing happens. Okay? It's hurry up and wait. And I think, like other sports, it's better enjoyed in person. It's harder to watch on TV.
Yeah, and so I think I was just about to say that golf is easier for me to watch on TV because you're moving from multiple players, right? And so you're moving. The camera's changing. Baseball doesn't, right? It's wait for the pitch. Okay, wait for the pitch. Okay. Oh, guess what? He didn't hit the ball. Yeah, because they don't hit but 25% of the time. We get it, right? We called it. He's not going to hit the ball. It's okay. Move on. Batter up.
Listen, he gets on base, okay? If I point to you, you're going to let me know he gets on base. Do we care? Coach Frank, do we care?
No.
We do not.
We just want to get on base. Just get on base. That's all we care. A walk is just as important to me as a single. But nobody wants to hear that watches TV. But here's what I think is some baseball that happens. So part of the reason why it's harder to get fans that didn't grow up playing baseball is because baseball has too many intellectual things that happen that you're like, oh, he's going to do this. Let me see if he can actually do it. Basketball is so fast. So when I look at it, it's me just coaching basketball and baseball, the same age group back to back. The years that I was at more advanced level in baseball was like me playing t-ball and basketball because it's constant, quick moving, quick thinking. It's too much for the kid at that age. You have to go a couple more years and mature more. You have to be more advanced physically and mentally to be able to move that quick pace. But baseball, You have to be more intelligent because everything is calculated in certain ways. You have to understand, especially when you start getting near the high school and beyond, that movement and play and pitch placement and then your position on the field, everything matters. Everybody moves. And with the baseball fans that know, watch these positions, watch the reactions, and they can see the third player made that mistake that the announcers will never talk about. And you love when you thought the pitch was going to be high and in, and that guy threw a slider low and away, and that player looked like an idiot. Now to the normal fan, he's a strikeout. To us, he was like, "Ooh, he got him." That was like breaking his ankles in basketball. But there comes the problem. It's not as sexy as breaking ankles, and there is part of the problem. It's not as sexy of a sport. That's what I think.
Listen,
Great. I'm glad.
football.
Look,
Football. Football is.
Tell me a kid at 6 years old that can read a safety rotating over the top, or a linebacker dropping into coverage, or a weak side blitz, right?
They can because of Madden. They can because of Madden.
They cannot.
They can.
You want to talk about you want to talk about intellectual? There's not a more intellectual game in the world than playing quarterback in the NFL. Okay, I don't want to hear that.
I don't know. Baseball, the catchers have to play some of the most intellectual situations. They have to read every batter, they have to know every position, every runner. They have to know the positioning, the hitting requirements of what normal hitters hit. They have to know the baseline. They have to know who's coming up next. Where's my pitcher at? How many pitches is it at? What's going on? What's happening? They have to study the relief, not just the starting pitcher. They have to know every available bullpen pitcher, their likenesses, what's going to happen, their advantages and disadvantages against hitter. You can't convince me that Yadier Molina is not as intelligent as Peyton Manning. They are just as intelligent and cerebral players as each other. But I took the mecca of both situations. But then if I start going down the list, I can name you 10 other ones that are just as cerebral. But we could talk all night about this. Let me quickly recap what we said.
First of all,
go ahead, Pop. I'll let you have a minute.
First of all, Yachty scores lower than C.J. Stroud in the Wonderlic. Okay, that's number one. Number two, and I want Teach, you were going to say something earlier. You can go ahead and say it.
I just want to say, okay, sports are like music. Everybody's into their own stuff. Football it's old school rock and roll or hip hop. Okay, it's fast. It's in your face. It makes you want to move. It's felt with a crowd. Basketball is jazz. You have no idea what instrument's going to play next, who's going to take a solo. It sounds great together or individually. Baseball is a symphony. Baseball, you are going to an orchestra, and some people, like Podfather, are going to find it boring, where some people, like Coach and myself, are sitting there going, listen how the reeds sound with the woodwinds. And that's just how it goes. I understand it's boring, but some of us geek out on that.
Sorry, what did you say? I fell asleep talking about baseball. No, I'm just kidding.
It's okay. That's the usual take. We just wait for old man Podfather to fall asleep so we can talk baseball.
Let's go a quick recap here. So the question posed again was, what can baseball do to help keep pace with basketball and football? Teach, I believe your response was
take the second wild card away, make player movement fun again.
Make player movement fun again. Podfather, you said it was
nothing
at all. Nothing they can do. I think that the only thing they can absolutely do is they got to find a way to make it sexier. I don't know how. I don't know what. But sexy is sells, and somehow they got to get sexier. They got to get racier. They got to get more stories in there. So this is us 3 for 3. Great podcast. Love what's going on. Let us know what you think, and we're out.